There we are. Not too slow today at all. Alright, time to tell the world. Streaming, game dev, putting together missions. Paste. And then over here. I spent the morning doing a video on Brutal Legend, so my voice is a little bit shot already. We'll see how long we can keep this up. I can already tell I probably don't have very much voice in me, which is a shame because there's a lot to do. That's why I normally don't record those kinds of videos on Saturdays or Wednesdays. But I didn't want to wait because I would have decided that it wasn't worth it. So today what we're going to do is we've already got this setup where the ship actually responds like a living, breathing thing. There are a lot of little details. The UI is not suitable at all. We'll be changing that out in the near future, but not today, because what we needed for today was just the ability for this to actually matter. And then what we'll do is we will have the actual mission grade what your performance was based on the performance of the relevant pieces of your kit. So for that, we're going to have to switch over to the missions section of our scenes. There we are. Beautiful. Now you might remember this because this is where I invented the ugliest visual, but this visual is very nice because it's an automatic thing, and that'll be really useful, and I'll be using it a lot, but I'll prettify it at some point. It doesn't have to look ugly like this. Right now we've got test missions, and we're going to go ahead and make these missions actually have a relevant point, and we're also going to make it so that they are a prefab, and that prefab gets passed to the other scene when this ends. So for that, what we're going to need is we're going to need some kind of mission control system that doesn't get deleted between scenes, which is pretty easy, but I think it's going to basically require us to have a new kind of script. Mission control. And mission control is just going to be a script which doesn't delete on play. And I have forgotten how to do that. Is it just don't delete on play? No, it's in start, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. I think you can also flag it, like just mark it as don't delete it. Let me take a look here. Create empty. Layer. Tag. Oh, you can do the opposite. You can tell it to go away. That's right. So I think we have to do the don't delete on play in start like that. I don't think there's any way to do that in this setup here, which is a little bit of a shame because it's not something that you should have to write code to do. Anyway, the point is that this is going to keep track of itself and also tell the universe what mission it's currently executing. Public static mission control active and public, or live I guess is better. And public, Mifaz says if I switch to debug mode in the inspector, maybe I'll find it. Let's find out. No, that's lock. Stop locking. There we are, debug. So if I take a look at the debug mode, I don't really think there's anything different about the setup. I can set it to static. No, I don't think there's anything different about it. It's no biggie. I just thought that there would be some way to do it that didn't require programming, since it's not something that should require programming. Public mission, active mission. That's all we need. And then what we're going to do is we are going to simply set this up so that it can take active missions and all that sort of jazz. So here in start, we're gonna do this during awake, I guess. Awake. We will set live equals this, and then we'll do don't destroy unload, and then we're also going to have a function public void set mission UI, and then we say active mission equals mission UI dot mission. No. Target. Now the reason we're doing it like this is so that we can pass mission UIs around rather than missions. This is a kind of a weird way to do it, and I'm not sure if I like this approach. I'm going to have to use it for a while before I decide. But basically, rather than passing the mission around, we're passing around the mission UI elements, which are these things on the left when I hit play. These. Now the reason that passing these around, and this is also a mission UI element, now the reason passing these around is a little bit easier is because I can hardwire them right here in the scene without having to worry about things not working out. So what I can do is I can have this here, when I hit launch, it can pass itself over to the mission control, and I don't have to know what mission is selected. All I have to do is make it so that when that button is clicked, it passes itself, which is pretty easy. Let's do that right now. Here's the button, on click, mission control, set mission, myself. Yeah, it's the one above it, myself. There we are. And now, regardless of what mission we select, it will always pass, and we won't need to do any more wiring. But we are going to want to put it into debug. Debug.log active mission is, and then mission.name. There we go. And with that in mind, we should now be able to do it. We'll hit play, and we will pick these various test missions and see how it responds. So if we pick the test mission and hit launch, don't know how to launch missions. Active mission is test mission. And if we pick test mission 3, active mission is test mission 3. See? Painless. Completely painless. But there is one problem to this. Wiring here is in a scene. So if I were to make this mission control not destroy itself between scenes, then what happens is if I go out to the other scene and then I return to this scene, I'll now have 2 mission controls, one of which will be properly wired, but one of which will be left over from some ancient mission control scene that no longer exists. So what we've got to do is we've got to make it so that if there is a live element, we destroy it. If live, destroy live.gameObject to keep the in-scene button wiring working. So basically, we keep this when we leave our mission control scene for an actual world, we keep it because mission control is now doing a mission. But when we return to the mission control level, the mission control scene, we want to destroy the old mission control object because it's not wired correctly anymore. But the new scene has a new mission control object, and we can just use that instead. Should be pretty painless. Right now, however, there is no setup to allow us to actually go to the other scene. So that's what we're going to do next. Here in set mission, we're going to want it to launch a new scene. So for now, we're going to hardwire that. I don't remember what the scene is called. It doesn't matter because I can type it, but I think it's called mission. No, that's not it. It's called... I think it's called test. Brilliant naming there, if I do say so myself. So down here we just say application dot... Is application.load or is it scene.load? I've forgotten. Load level. They're not called... It's called load level even though they're scenes, so that's weird. But this is load level async. Load level, that's all we want. We don't want the async. Now the thing is that there are a couple of ways to do load levels, and I've seen a lot of indie games screw this up. The problem is that if you load a level, it actually freezes the game until the level finishes loading. So what you normally get is something like, I did this on my phone recently. I was playing a game that's not too bad. But when you transition between scenes, you can't tell if you've actually hit the button because the scene just stays, the old scene just stays there until the new scene is loaded. So if you have a situation like that, it's often good to load a blank scene and then load the next scene. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and do this directly like so. Unfortunately for us, I don't know why it's underlined with green. Use Scene Manager. Well, okay, Scene Manager isn't here, so it's like, in order to do anything, you have to include Unity Engine dot what? Scene management? Yeah, that's fine. Got to make everything harder. Great, so now it's not working anymore. Yeah, now it's called load scene. So they fixed the problem I was complaining about, but in the process loaded something else that I don't like. It happens. Yeah, that's fine. Now we can tell it to load async and stuff, but none of that is of any use to us, so we're going to want to just do it exactly like this. It's all good. And we're going to zoom in and out while it recompiles. Give it a second. There we go. Now we have something where it's saying, I don't know how to launch a scene, and I don't know where that is hard-coded, because I'll tell you what, we do know how to launch a, we do know how to launch one now. So let's pop on over here and launch. So mission launch shouldn't even be here. To do this is completely unneeded. But it might be needed in the long run because there may be customization that needs to be done. Like this scene might depend on your overall level of trade or something. So we're going to have to go ahead and leave that there for now. But for now, we're going to go ahead and launch this scene. And it says, you forgot to set it up, you idiot. Yeah, I knew it was going to happen. I needed to add in a couple other scenes here. So we're going to drop in missions and test. I don't think we even need sample scene, to be honest. But we're going to go ahead and put those in there. And then we'll hit play. Test mission and launch. You see that long pause there while it was thinking? That was because of this. It was like a quarter of a second. Still, you can see how we now have everything working, and we have in this Don't Destroy on Load section our mission control. And there we go. We have the test mission. Now the test mission, if you notice, is linked to this prefab. And that's because we're actually using that prefab. Even though I'm editing it here, it's actually linked to this prefab. And this prefab is what's getting thrown around. So we are not using the in-scene mission when we transition. We could be like, okay, well, don't delete on level load this mission object. But if we do that, then we would have a ton of mission objects just floating around. It's better to use the prefab. That means that there's no customization, though. So any customization will have to be in mission control rather than on the missions themselves. Still, let's go ahead and create some missions. When we are going to have a mission that has a specific nature, I guess you could say, we're going to want it to not only describe that nature, but also we have to be able to spell it out. And I think the big thing we want to spell out is which systems matter. So let's go ahead and open up the mission directory here, a mission object, and we're going to have a public. We're going to go ahead and create a little bit of a struct. Public struct. I guess we're going to make it a... There's not really any reason to use structs here, but I'm old. So we're going to use a struct. And we're going to call it a mission grade. And we're going to go ahead and set that to system.serializable. And then we're going to put in public string system and public float weight. And also public float min passing grade. And then down here, we'll go ahead and we'll say public list mission grade grades. So now if we go over here to the mission, it's not where we want to be. We want to be over here on the... Oh, it is on the mission. Yeah. What am I thinking? Here's the grades. And we are just going to want to put in a couple of different systems so that we can figure out what sort of mission this is going to be. So let's spell it out. This is going to be a training mission. And we're going to go ahead and say fly to the moon and back without maybe deep up, blowing up. And we're going to go ahead and add in a time, a duration. I forgot about that. Public float days long. Modern Kylan says world. Hello, world indeed. I'll call it just duration. If we're going to do it in duration, we should make it in hours, but I don't want to. We're going to make it in days. There we go. And that way we'll be able to tell what's going on. Now in mission control, we're going to have a public int I'll put that below here. Our public float time passed. Make that 0. Down here in set mission, when we change our scene, we're going to want to sign up. Actually, we do that here in Awake. We're going to want to sign up for the update hour. And we'll create a function to do that. Public void hour passed. And we'll say time passed plus equals 1 divided by 24, because our days are 24 hours long for no reason. And then we're going to go ahead and check and see whether the time has elapsed. So if time passed is greater than or equal to active mission.duration days, debug.log mission complete grading. We don't know how to grade yet, so what we're going to do instead is we're just going to jump back to our setup scene, which is going to be hard-coded for now as mission. Is it mission? Mission. Excuse me. Missions. There we are. So we are going to add in grading. We're creating the grading we need, but first things first, we have to make it so that a specific amount of time has to pass. So we're not gonna make it a whole day. I think we're not gonna make it weeks. We're gonna make it 1 day, just so that we can actually watch it and watch it go by. The systems we're gonna watch for are going to be engine and let's try that 3 here. Pilot and power. And we're gonna have some min passing grades that are very forgiving. So 1, 1, and 1, and the weight's going to be just 1, 1, and 1 again. Why not? It's basic stuff, right? And we'll apply that. We'll change the name of this to training mission, and we'll apply that. And then when we hit play, we can select the training mission, we can launch it, it opens here, and then we've got it lined up here, at which point the time passed will begin to tick past, in theory. It doesn't appear to be ticking past. What's going on here? Why is the time passed not increasing? Well, the reaction to the time increasing works. So this is working, but time passed is not. And that's probably because it's giving us the integer result here, which is dumb, and I don't know why it would do that. But we'll add some Fs, and the Fs will make that divide correctly rather than returning 0. There we go. That's better. And eventually we will hit the amount of time that it takes to succeed in the mission. It's actually surprisingly long even when we are moving pretty quick. So we're just going to take the universe and decrease this to 0.1, and the hours should fly past. Oh, they didn't. I broke it. Hours per second of, sorry, not 0.1. This is hours per second, not... Sorry, I got it backwards. That was brilliant of me, I know. There we are, that's better. I thought it was seconds per hour for some reason. And there we go, mission complete. Now, obviously, the mission is only complete in that it's over. It didn't get graded. So the next thing we've got to do is add in the grading. And the way to do that is to just take the mission. Oh, did I close it? I closed it. There it is. We're going to take the mission here. Yeah, go ahead and save it. I don't need you to... I accidentally closed it. That's fine. I can reopen it. Here it is. Oh, that's not it. There it is. So what we've got to do is we've got to be able to go through and grade a ship. But you know what? The ships actually don't have everything we need to grade them because the systems don't have tags. So that's what we're going to have to do before we do anything else. We're going to have to go over into the test scene and add tags to the systems. Because otherwise it's not going to end up working out. So over here in the skiff, here it is. We've got engine and so on, but these don't have an actual setting. So if we take a look, this duty is what we probably want to tag with the actual nature of of this thing. It's going to say engines here in duty. So that's what we'll do. We'll just pop this open. Pop it up, pum. Public string system category equals grind. Oh, I forgot. I can zoom in. So this is going to be system category engine. And then here on the solar parts, we're going to go in and make those system category power. And then down on the bridges, both bridges, we're going to want to have the same set. The bridge room is the one we're using, so this is the one we'll change for now. And you can see that it's currently not set to anything. We'll call that pilot. Now there's a lot of things that we might change later on, but this is a basic setup that seems like it's going to work. So we'll save that and we'll go back over to the other scene. And once again, we'll just take a quick look at the training mission, engine, pilot, power. That sounds good. And so that should be all we need to do, but now we have to actually go and grade it. And to do that, the mission is going to have a value that comes out of it. Public float grade, and we're going to want to pass in the ship. I don't think we have a ship, like we'll just pass it a game object. And what we're going to do is we're going to get list duties or array of duties. We need to include the correct using crew. There it is. Duties. There it is. Duty array. Duties equals ship.getComponents in children. Duty. And then we're going to go through and we're going to get a grade. So float grade equals 0 and then return grade. And basically we're going to go through each of our own mission grades, and then we're going to go through all of the duties and see how we stack up. For each mission grade, MG in grades. And then we're going to go ahead and go through all the duties. So float this grade equals 0. For each duty D in duties, if D dot type, I'm going to call it system type, system category, equals MG dot system, then we want to add it. So this grade plus equals, but we don't actually want to add the value itself. So D dot, what's it called? Efficiency, property. I mean, it's open, so I guess I'll just go over there. Oh, there isn't one. Okay, so for some reason, the duty actually doesn't have a task set up. So if we take a look at the task has these hours since completion, cap at 0, efficiency. Something else has efficiency, and I thought I knew what it was, but I guess not. Is it the functional rooms? It's probably the functional rooms. Yeah. So we're actually looking for efficiencies, not duties. My bad. Functional rooms, not duties. My bad. So we're going to grab the functional rooms instead. Functional room rooms equals ship category functional rooms. And then here we're going to go through all of the rooms. There we go. And then we just say if room.category, room.system equals mg.system, but there is no room.system. Did you know that? I did. Let's go over there and fix that. So we're going to need to have a system. So public string system equals, And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here into the mission, and we are going to be able to grab those systems. And that means grabbing the room's efficiency like this. But it's not the efficiency of the room alone. It's the efficiency of the room minus the mission grade min passing grade, like so, times, well, we don't have to times it by the weight yet. That happens at the end. But we're also going to want to keep track of how many there are so we can divide them. There's got to be an easier way to do this. I just never figured it out. Basically, we want to keep it like that and then divide it. There's probably a better way to do it. I don't happen to know it. And then we say this grade times equals mg dot... Oh, wait, we don't actually want to divide it by the hit count, because if we have more engines, we just do better. That's fine. That's fine. So we just add it in, and then at the end, we multiply it by the weight. Now, the thing is that we're probably going to want to have a max cap on this. So let's add that in. We could just make it like flat fiat something, like you can't get better than 10 times, I don't know. Let's go ahead and say that's max allowed. Max allowed grade equals 10. I don't think I can specify like that yet because it's not a class. Therefore, now it's a class. I knew I wasn't going to keep it a struct for long. If this grade is greater than mg.max allowed grade, then this grade equals mg.max allowed grade. And we're going to go ahead and add that into the final value, like so. That should be all we need to do to go through all of the mission grades and all of the functional rooms and set them up properly. Only problem being we now have to go back over into the ship directory, the ship scene, and set up the ship again because we unset it up, being the sort of brilliant programmer that I am. So here is our ship, and last time we set it up with a... here we are. We set it up so that the sub-element down here was what we were looking for, but what we're really looking for is here. So it's going to be engine. Should we multiply it by the importance of the object? I don't think so. I think that that's fine. And then here in the solar, we're going to call these power. That's not how you spell power. That's how you spell power. And then over here, we're going to go over to the bridge and set that up as pilot. That's probably not the right term. It's probably like captain, crew, control. We'll leave it as pilot for now. We can change it later. It's no biggie. So we'll save that, and we'll go back over to the missions. And what we're going to want to do is when we finish with our mission grade, which is over in our mission control, here it is, we're going to want to actually get that grade. So we're going to just debug log it for now. Debug.log error, just to make sure it's nice and big and red. It's active mission dot grade. And then we need to pass it the ship. But what ship is it? Well, that's something we haven't been keeping track of. If we take a look, there's really no ship map.active or anything. So it's hard for us to tell what the active ship is. We've got to be able to track it down. And currently, there's really no way to do that. But what we can do is we can go ahead and pass it a null. And then we'll go over into our other scene and set up something where we can see the ship and track it down and find it. Hello? So here it is, the ship that we're looking for. And basically we want this value here. And it's the ship map. It's got a map class attached to it. And that's really what we can get. We really want this to be our primary ship. But you know what? We do not have a ship script. We do not have just a flat-out ship script. So we're going to create one. Ship. And there's going to be a bunch of things associated with this, but it's all going to be low-grade stuff like cost. More importantly, we'll be able to ask it what the current ship is. So we'll just drop that here, go inside. Public string class name, and public string desk, and public static ship live. And then in awake, we'll make ourselves the live ship. Like so. No biggie, right? Basic stuff. And that's going to be how we set up our ships. So over here in our mission control, we can just pass it the active ship. Like that. Keep in mind that you have to do that before you load the scene, or the ship will end up unloading. Now we're passing a ship, but we're not actually intending to pass ships. We're passing in game objects. We'll just replace that with ship. No reason. We have to leave it as a game object. It can be a proper ship. Scroll in and out until it recompiles. There we go. And now we should be able to play it through. Let's go ahead and see how well our setup works the way it is at the moment. We're going to go ahead and turn this part off, though. These are loud for no reason. Because we already fixed this crap. We don't need this crap either. If we do want that stuff, we'll have to display it in a better way, something that makes sense. So we'll take this training mission, we'll go launch it, and then we will let it run. We're going to go ahead and accelerate the time factor. We should probably hard code this to be better. There are better ways to do that. But basically, we're just going to wait until this hits 1, at which point the mission will be over. There we go. And you can see that 14.021. There it is. So that's what we got. And we've got a lot of other chaff after it, but that's because we're doing a lot of debug stuff. So basically, we've got the value that we want out of our ship, but what we didn't do is display it at all. So what we're going to want to do is have the mission control display the mission results before returning you back. But in order to handle this, we're going to have some kind of ship registry where your ship is categorized. And for that, we're going to have your ship be something that survives various scene loading transitions. This is a little bit more complicated, and I didn't think this through enough, because we don't want the body of your ship to survive. We only want the parent, the object that it's that contains it. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to have the ship category be different, and there's a couple of ways to do that. One is that we can just write and read from the player prefs for now, and later on we will fix it up. We can't really write to prefabs because this is in play mode on random people's computers. It has to be serialized somewhere so that we can share it and load it and throw it around outside of scenes. But it could just be in the game until we serialize it. Since we have to serialize it eventually, we may as well put in the serialize stub right now, and that's going to be writing to and reading from player prefs. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're actually going to grab this mission control and we're going to make it a visual. So let's go and grab here and add in a new UI canvas. With a canvas inside of mission control, we can set this to have a pretty high sort order, like 4. And then we can add in our own new objects so that this can display when we want it to. So with just a black backdrop, we can then put in a UI element again. So if we grab this one back here, mission summary, copy, paste. Here it is in front now. And what we can do is this mission summary, we can load it with our current mission. And in order to do that, we have a couple of things we can do. The mission summary has a load mission function, so that's what we're going to use. But in order to set that up, we're going to need to add in an event. So there we go. And then down here we'll have our event. So public Unity event on mission load. But here's the problem. This Unity event doesn't take an argument that I can send it. It takes an arbitrary we can set the arguments, but we can't set them at runtime. What we really need to do is be able to pass around the mission. But you know what? I think it might be okay to just hard code it. I'm not going to worry too much about it. So when we set the mission, we are going to grab the mission UI from inside of ourselves. Get component in parent, mission UI, or child, mission UI true. And that's going to get the inside mission, and then we can just set the mission. Normally you pass it a mission UI, but I think we can just say mission equals. Hold on, if we go over into the mission UI, we don't have it set up. Let's grab that. We can set the target. It's called target for some reason, but all we have to do is set it, so that's what we'll do. There we go. And that way what'll happen is our UI inside of ourselves will get set up properly. But we also are going to need to have our setup for saying the results of our mission. So public, I guess we'll put this at the top. Public text mission result text box. And then down here we will say mission or float grade equals this. Mission result text box dot text equals mathf dot round grade times 100 divided by 100 plus %. And then we'll just go ahead and call that an outcome. But we're also going to want to turn on the object, the visual for ourselves. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and put another string here. Public string mission scene equals mission. And we're going to want to have a public game object canvas. I guess we can just grab the canvas. So basically what we're going to want to do is turn the canvas on. Canvas get component in children, canvas true, dot set active, set active, game object dot set active true. And basically what that'll do is it'll turn on the visuals, and in the visuals we're going to have a button that loads the next scene. Public void return to missions. This is missions scene. And we'll just destroy ourselves. Probably I want to do that in the opposite order. I guess it won't matter. Either way is fine. There is some risk of us accidentally causing a double destroy, but that shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, that should all be fine. Let's set it up now. So we've got the mission summary here, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to revamp it so that it's more in tune with what we actually want. Part of that is going to be we're going to go ahead and shrink it considerably. But for some reason this is still, it's not opaque. There we are, that's better. We're going to take this mission summary and we're going to make it more opaque like this. And then what we'll do is we will bring in a new text box. So here is the long desk, and we're going to duplicate that. And the new long desk is going to be like this. And that's going to be the outcome. That's not how you spell that. Not even close to how you spell that. There we are. And the long desk itself is going to be below that, like this. And the outcome isn't going to end up being anything, but what we're going to do is we're going to drop this in here. And what we're going to want is to return, and there's going to be named something inside. return. We'll call it return. Yeah, there's no reason to worry about it. The actual return element is no longer going to do this. Instead, what it's going to do is it's going to grab the mission control and tell it that we're done. There you are. Perfectly fine. We're currently not saving it or anything, but this should be okay. It's not that big a deal. Right, that's all good. Just turn this off. And then what we'll do is we'll drop in our canvas as, oh, we've already got that automatically. The outcome will be here. And then we will save it and then press play and see if it runs. Once again, we're going to want to accelerate things. Okay, so what happened is we ended up loading the next scene when we shouldn't have. This is our problem. We shouldn't have loaded this scene. So basically we want to pause the game. We want to load up an empty scene. So I don't believe there is such thing as an empty scene by default. I don't think I can just say load an empty scene. Is there an unload scene? There might be. Yeah, there is. Let's try just unloading the test scene. See whether we can get away with that. Oh, I didn't like that. Unload scene async. Let's try it. And then what we'll do is it's not safe to use during triggers, but screw that, we'll play it unsafe. I think I know what they mean by that, and it's not relevant in this case. Let's try it one more time then. I really should just permanently change this value. So everything besides the mission control should go away once we hit time past 1. Yeah, like that. But you can see how it's still changing because it didn't unload jack shit. So when you unload the scene, it doesn't work. We are going to have to load up an empty scene. So that's okay, I guess. So for the empty scene, we'll just create a new scene and then save it. What happened? There we are. As empty. We don't need any of this, just delete it all. Oh wait, we do need the main camera. Empty. We're going to have to add empty to the build settings. And then we're going to want to try it. So let's go back out into the mission scene and try it again. This is a lot of work for something that shouldn't be a lot of work, but sometimes that's the way it is. I have a feeling that there's a way to ease it a little bit, and I just happen to not know it. But wiring your scenes together is by far the most annoying part of game dev for most people, I think. It's a thing people put off, and then all of a sudden they end up wishing they hadn't put it off. So here you can see that our outcome is 14%. Now, percent is not really what I want to say there. There's no actual percentage involved. In fact, given the numbers, we could have only gotten a maximum of 30%. But there are a lot of things we can do here to make this a little bit more interesting. So let's take that and make it more interesting. The way we're going to do that is radically change the scale of these text boxes. This long desk can be down here. And then this can be much larger. And the reason for that is because we can print out a grade breakdown with all of the details. So to do that, we're going to want to have the mission, when it grades you, it's going to want to return something a little more complicated than that. Well, it could return a lot of things, but let's go ahead and just have it return a ref string at this point. And what we'll do is we will just add the notes in. So notes equals empty. And then in here, we'll go ahead and spell it out. notes plus equals, and then we'll say mg.system plus and then this grade. Oh, we want to mathf dot round this grade out of, and then mg.max allowed grade, and then plus new line. This is not the best way to do it. I think that I'll have to think of some other way to do it, clean it up a little bit better. We'll find out. So string output equals this, and that's actually not there. It's in here. There. And then what we do is we will end up adding in the output. And that should be a little bit more interesting. We will find out soon enough. And let's take it out from percentage here. We'll call it points. Here you can see the outcome. Engine, 9 of 10. Pilot, 1 of 10. Now the reason we have such a bad piloting score is because we have 2 bridges, and one of them is floating in deep space. So it's kind of weighing us down. If we turned off that other bridge, it wouldn't be an issue. It's funny how good our engine is, though. Well, it's all basic stuff. We return. That didn't work. That's interesting. So this button didn't take. This button here didn't take. It's supposed to go return to missions, and then I guess if I destroy it, it doesn't work in the right order? It didn't get destroyed either, though. Not sure. Well, let's go and change the fundamental speed. No, that's missions. I want to open up test. Yeah, that's good. Let's change to 3. Shboomp. 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 All right, so that's the same result. Now, what happens when we hit return? I can't hit it. Why can't I hit it? Normally I'd suspect that I did something wrong with like a canvas group, but I don't see any sign of that. It should be working fine. It's possible that I screwed it up with the name, because in actuality that name might get bound to a function if there is a function named return, but I don't see that happening. Why isn't this clickable? There's no event handler. That's the problem. So in empty, we're going to have an event handler. It's not a big deal. Just have to remember to build it. We're also going to do segmented missions, but this will do for now. That didn't help. Why is this button not activating? What's going on? Oh, I see. There's like a lot of random shit. Let's just copy this and put it into the other empty scene in whole. And we'll remove this. It's not the event system I needed. It was the standalone input module, I guess. No, that doesn't make any sense. I was clicking. This has nothing to do with clicks. Not sure. Either way, we're going to go ahead and save that and try it one more time. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, now it works. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the test scene, and we're going to actually remove the unreachable elements from the ship. So all of this stuff is in the ship with us, and it makes no sense. What we're going to do is we're going to drag the rest of it off into a junk object, because I don't want to delete it at the moment, but I also don't want it here. So the tortoise and the albatross and this random cube down into junk. The other bridge chamber, let's go ahead and just turn junk off. And now we'll be able to grab the stuff that doesn't fit and still drop it into junk. So, junk. And there are some rooms here that aren't attached to anything. Door frame embed. I think that's for a different ship. Junk. All right, now it should be just this one ship. So let's go ahead and try that out and see whether or not we can get better than one on our bridge, since this time we actually have our bridge connected and we don't have our random bridge floating in deep space doing nothing. I still got one. That's interesting. Oh, you know why? It's because I never set the pilot thing up. If we take a look inside the A-class ship and inside the bridge room, the pilot ship function efficiency boost of 1. So that would bring us down to a very, very bad grade. We're going to go ahead and make that an efficiency boost of 3 with a degrade per hour of 0.25. That'll give us 12 hours between one shift and another, which is enough for this kind of ship. You don't need to be on crew the whole time. You don't need to be on the bridge the whole time. Oh, we got several pilot ships. I wonder how that happened. We're up to 2 of 10 now. And you know what the reason is because the mission here, it's set so that the piloting has to be a minimum of 1, which meant that when the maximum was 1, we were not getting very much. So we'll just go ahead and make this a min passing grade of 0. And then hit apply. And that'll bring us up to 3 of 10 for piloting. And obviously in a real result, what we might do instead is we might say the max passing allowed grade is 5, but the weight is going to be 2. And that should punch it up to 4 out of 5 for piloting. Just testing to make sure that my basic concepts are working here. I don't like how we have double piloting ships. That's really weird. 5 of 5. Okay, that's fine. So you can see the basic idea here is that we are trying to create missions that you can go on. And the core concept is that there will be static missions, which are these. And the static missions are the ones that you do to sell your ship. Your ship design works X amount well because you've trained it, you've gone through these various missions and you've seen how well it works. But then you've got the just the free missions, which you can do later, but those are going to be a different structure. I'm not at all sure that this is the best structure, but what I am sure of is that my voice is starting to go. So if you have any questions, this would be the time to ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to take some screenshots and then call it a day. So, you know, that's a good screenshot, I think. Polished up the mission system, so there's almost something like a game on the horizon. Screenshot Saturday. And now let's get a picture of the mission stuff. We got to pick a mission to launch before we launch it. Yeah, that's fine. Do 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 do. I have a feeling I made a bad architecture call. I have a feeling there's something wrong with what I decided to do for this. Mifa says, what do you think of having a manager scene for the objects that should be persistent between scenes? I think that that's the standard way to do it. That's what I use my universe for most of the time, but in this case, the universe actually gets turned on and off. The problem with having a manager that you put between the scenes is that people will fail to correctly conceptualize what has to be saved and loaded. When you're a game dev and you build based on that particular approach, you often put off saving and loading until really late, and then you realize it's going to be almost impossible. Whereas if you understand the concepts that are going to need to be saved and loaded, many of those are things that you should leave dead between scenes. They shouldn't survive scenes. They should be on the disk. And so then it stops being a crutch. There are certainly things that you do need to pass between scenes. You've seen several of them today. So for those, you definitely just use interscene objects. There's no reason to worry about that too much. Just be careful that you don't make it really hard to save and load and lean on them too much. Mifaz is also talking about using additive modes to add in complex scenes. So additive mode is something that is very useful if you have a real world. If you are running, from terrain A to terrain B and there's no loading between them, that's what it's really built for. Loading in conceptual elements is a little bit more risky, I think, in terms of you have to understand exactly how these elements are going to connect to what you've loaded anyway, and at that point you might as well just load a new scene. So it's really good for terrain assets and stuff like that, but it's not so great for things like what I'm doing here. Loading the ship in using an async load, it wouldn't be very useful. Async loads are not a bad idea if you're loading in a lot of assets, though. Even if you don't, you can go to an empty scene and then use async load if you're going to have assets stream in. There's a couple of other reasons you might want to use async load. I've seen people use async load to load in like enemy nests and stuff. I think I'd just spawn a prefab at that point, but there's really, I guess, nothing preventing it. The only problem is that when you load the same scene in several times, it can go really wrong. So generally speaking, if you're thinking about using multi-level loading for conceptual things, consider just using prefabs instead of scenes, because you can load in any number of prefabs and they won't get lost and they won't get screwed up. And you can link to prefabs much easier than you can link to scenes, stuff like that. I think that's covered what he's talking about. I mean, you load your game scene to your manager scene additively. Yeah, you can. There's not really a whole lot of reason to do so, though. Not as far as I know. Well, thank you for your time, everybody. I'm going to leave and drink some honey tea because my throat hurts. I've been pretending to be Jack Black all morning. It's not been... I don't know how he does it. It's hard.